Chapter 81. I'm the real father. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 81. I'm the real father. Dong Chao checked the divorce agreement and looked at little Five standing aside with a raring face. It looked like he feared he would regret. He had no choice but to pick the pen and sign his name on the divorce agreement and then pressed his fingerprint. Wang Jiani also signed her own name. She held the paper to her chest and cried, "You bastard. Finally, I can get rid of you." Dong Chao looked at Qin Haodong and said, "I've already done what you've said, can you let go of me now?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "When did I say I will let you go? You're fooling me around." Dong Chao roared in anger. At the same time, several policemen came over and handcuffed him immediately. Naylan Wuxia said, "Dong Chao, you're under arrest for gathering people to take drugs. Now go with us." As the policeman arrived, Dong Chao became more unafraid because he knew he would never be cut. He yelled to Qin Haodong, "Gigolo boy. Wait for me. I'll never let this go." Qin Haodong smiled brightly, "Okay. I'll wait for you, but you have to get out of jail first." Naylan Wuxia waved her hand. Two policemen took Dong Chao into the patrol wagon. She pulled Qin Haodong aside and said, "You big womanizer. Why do you have to have a woman around every time you bring me troubles?" Qin Haodong thought for a moment and found that was true. He smiled awkwardly and said, "That's a coincidence." "Well, why do you have to call me troubles? I am helping you contribute. You'll soon get promoted as long as I am here." Naylan Wuxia hummed. Qin Haodong was right. She had solved big cases one after another recently and had been rewarded several times. If it went well, she would soon be promoted. She then asked, "Are you available tonight?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Why? You want to buy me dinner? It's too early now, why not we have it after you got your promotion?" "You wish. My grandpa wants to see you. Please go visit him if you have time tonight." "Oh. What's going on?" "You'll know if you go." Naylan Wuxia got on the car and left after she said that. "Thank you, Dr. Qin." Wang Jiani walked to Qin Haodong and said with gratitude, "It's fine. Buy yourself a suit and enjoy your life." Qin Haodong let Dafei transfer 1 million to Wang Jiani after he said that. Then they walked to Long Haisheng's house. Long Haisheng and his wife were already waiting at the gate of the villa when they arrived. They welcomed Qin Haodong warmly. The little fellow and Long Xiaobao were playing in the house. Long Haisheng said, "Dr. Qin, thank you so much. My son has felt much better after you treated him last time." Qin Haodong checked Long Xiaobao. He was much better than last time. His face turned rosy and his head became bushy. After a short catching up, he started treating Long Xiaobao for the second time. 20 minutes later, he collected his silver needles and said, "Remember to take the medicine on the prescription. He'll be fully cured after one more treatment." Chao Ting said with gratitude, "Dr. Qin, thank you so much. Our family owes you a lot." Long Haisheng said, "Dr. Qin, from now on, your business is mine. Please come to me if you need any help. I'll do my best to help." Qin Haodong brought the little fellow to Lin's villa. Lin Momo had come back from work when he was back. Mommy. Tang Tang won the first prize today." The little fellow jumped to Lin Momo as soon as she saw her. "Really? Tang Tang's such a good girl. Mommy will reward you." Lin Momo pecked on the little fellow's cheeks. Apparently, she was in a good mood today. The little fellow laughed loudly. "Mommy. Papa just kissed here, you just ate his mouth water." "Well." Lin Momo's cheeks turned red. She looked at Qin Haodong who was laughing silently next to her. "Mommy. Put me down. I want to tell the good news to Grandpa, Damao, and Ermao." the little fellow said as she jumped out of Lin Momo's arms and ran towards the room. Lin Momo said, "Thank you. I feel sorry that I can't take her to the contest." Qin Haodong said like he didn't care, "It's fine. I am Tang Tang's father, and it's my duty to take her to the contest." Lin Momo sighed and said, "You're being so nice to Tang Tang. Sometimes I even suspect if Tang Tang's real father would be so nice to her if we could find him." Qin Haodong held Lin Momo in his arms and said, "You don't have to look for him, I'm Tang Tang's real father." "You're so full of it." Qin Haodong was saying it honestly, but Lin Momo took it as his loving confession. She punched slightly on his chest. "Mommy. You can't fight Papa." The little fellow was running back, with Dumao and Ermao. Lin Momo pushed Qin Haodong away, hastily and shyly. Qin Haodong took her hand and sat down on the sofa. Then he said, "You're in a good mood today. Your work must be going on well." "Well, it is." Lin Momo's eyes were full of excitement when talking about work. She said, "Our Raw Gemstone Expo was packed with people today. Our sales hit a new high. The Expo of Feng's group had no customer at all. At first, some people in the group judged the Expo for this or that, but now all of them have been shut up. Nobody says anything bad about it." Qin Haodong knew that it was not easy for Lin Momo to be the president. There would definitely be people who were unsatisfied of a woman in charge of such a big company, and some of them even had untold motives. Those people would definitely judge Lin Momo on the Expo if he hadn't hammered the Feng's group heavily. He said, "That's great. It won't be long before the Feng's group shut down their business." Lin Momo's expression changed a little when she heard that. She said, "The situation looks good, but we can't be too optimistic. I got a message today that the Fengs had a batch of raw gemstone of jade transported, and it has arrived. And if my guess is right, they'll never accept the failure. They'll carry out promotion and publicity in a day or two." Qin Haodong smiled like he didn't care. "It's okay. I'll go visit the Fangs if this doesn't work." Lin Momo had known faintly about it that Qin Haodong had special method picking up raw gemstone. She nodded and said, "Let's wait and see how it goes." After dinner, Qin Haodong left the Lin family and drove to the military sanatorium. Nalan Wushuang was waiting for him there when he arrived. The two entered where Nalan Jia lived. When they entered, they saw Nalan Jia sitting in the armchair, with another middle-aged man before him. The middle-aged man was in his 50s and looked handsome. He was speaking respectfully to Nalan Jia, and he failed to hide his decent manner as a man of high position. He must be an official. Behind the middle-aged man, a tall woman was standing. She was in black from head to toe. Even her face was covered in a black veil, with only 2 eyes revealed. She was closely covered, but her body shape was too excellent to be hidden. She was plump in the chest and wide in the hip, making her a classic hourglass shape. Qin Haodong frowned when he saw the woman. Other people might not notice, but he could sense the thick qi of death given out by the woman. The qi was so thick that it was almost solid, like the qi of a ghost. Seeing Qin Haodong entering the house, Nalan Jia stood up and said warmly, "My little magic doctor, the old man is troubling you, again. You are welcome. Just tell me if you need any help." Qin Haodong paid much respect to those who had contributed themselves to the country and people, like Nalan Jia. "Little magic doctor, I called you here to treat one of my old fellows," said Nalan Jia as he introduced the middle-aged man behind him to Qin Haodong. "He was my guardian in the old days, Shi Kuai. Now he is the head of Jiangnan Provincial Public Security Department." Qin Haodong was laughing inside because it was such a coincidence that he had just met the head of the underworld of Jiangnan City in the afternoon, and now he was meeting the head of the government. "Dr. Qin, it's an honor to meet you." Shi Kuai stood up immediately. His position was high now, but he would never show it off in front of Nalan Jia. He greeted Qin Haodong respectfully. Qin Haodong replied him in courtesy. After all were seated, Nayland Jie said, "Sure, tell the doctor about your symptoms. I once hurt my waist when I was in the army, causing dislocation of the vertebrae. That was also why I was transferred here to do civilian work. I've met plenty of doctors of both Western medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. They all said that the located point was too crucial to be reset because I would end up paralyzed once it failed. So they suggested I receive expectant treatment. I was young, so I didn't take it seriously at that time. That's how I overcame it." He sighed as he said, "But now as I grew older, the injury is getting more and more serious, and recently the pain was sharp enough to have influenced my work. I went to the hospital a few days ago. The experts in the capital city suggested that I should have surgery, but the risk was quite high. There's more than 50% chance that my lower body would go paralyzed. If I don't have the surgery, I can only retire in advance, stay at home and rest. I've been busy throughout my whole life. I can't accept it that I'll retire when I was just 50. The surgery is too risky, and I may end up as a burden to my kids. That's not I want." When I ran out of options, my old leader said that the little magic doctor's medical skills were miraculous, and can heal my waist. That's why I went all the way from the provincial capital to Jiangnan City. I want you to diagnose me. Let me see it, Qin Haodong said, and let Shi Kuai reach out to check his paws. Moments later, he had known clearly about the injury. Shi Kuai's injury on the waist was really serious. The 6th and 7th scleromer had been dislocated because of the injury. He had held it for too long that his tendon had been deformed, and all the health scleromers had bony spurs on them. It would be hard to reset it in ordinary ways. "Is it curable, doctor?" asked Shi Kuai. He had every reason to be nervous because he had no other choice but to retire if Qin Haodong couldn't heal him. "Yes, it is." Qin Haodong spat out these 3 words lightly, but Shi Kuai felt that they were like the voice from paradise. Even the woman in black behind him had a slight change in her eye expression. He might suspect it if the words were spoken by someone else, but Qin Haodong was the one who had cured Nayland Jie and many more soldiers from special troops who retired due to injury. He would definitely trust his extraordinary medical skills. "Doctor, when will you have the time to treat me?" Shi Kuai asked earnestly. Chapter 82. The Magic of Cultivating a Ghost Slave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 82. The Magic of Cultivating a Ghost Slave. We can do it right now. Qin Haodong asked Nayland Jie's men to find a hard bed, and then let the Shi Kuai lie down. He took the needle bag from his pocket and pricked 9 needles in succession on the back of Shi Kuai and began to manipulate softly. Through the pulse taking just now, he had already known the traumatic condition of Shi Kuai's spine. So the manipulation was extremely precise, and the dislocated spine slowly began to recover to the normal position under the appropriate force. The spine would inevitably be hindered by the deformed tendons and muscles in the process of recovery, but these had been combed by Qin Haodong with greenwood genuine qi. It gradually returned to normal. As for the bony spurs that had grown, they were smashed by Qin Haodong's inner strength and then decomposed by greenwood genuine qi. Lying on the bed, Shi Kuai was surprised that his injured part usually was in pain without being touched, but now under the manipulation of Qin Haodong, there was no pain at all. What he did not know was that the 9 silver needles just pricked by Qin Haodong had completely cut off the nerves of his injured part. Although there was no anesthetic, its effect was 10 times better than the anesthetic. In less than 5 minutes, Qin Haodong stood up and collected the 9 silver needles. "Well, your spine has been completely repositioned and you can now get up and move slowly. But be careful of taking heavy objects and doing strenuous activities within a week." Shi Kuai sat up from the bed, put on his shoes and slowly stood on the ground. He was surprised to find that the back of his waist was not painful at all. What's more, he felt much better than before, as if he had unloaded a boulder of 1,000 kilograms. "Thank you very much, little magic doctor," he said, taking out a bank card from his pocket, "Little magic doctor, there is 100,000 yuan in the card. It's a little expression of my gratitude. Please accept it." Without decline, Qin Haodong took the credit card and put it in his pocket. He was a doctor. He had the right to charge for his treatment. Moreover, he was not rich now. He said, "Mr. Naylan, is there anything else? If it's all right, I got to go back." "Wait a minute, little magic doctor." Before Naylan Jie could speak, Shi Kuai stopped Qin Haodong. "What's up? Is there anything else wrong with Mr. Shi?" Qin Haodong asked in surprise. "No, little magic doctor. You got the wrong idea. I'm feeling very good." Then, Shi Kuai pulled the girl in black behind him and said, "Little magic doctor, this is my niece, Qi Weiner, who has suffered from a strange disease since childhood. Please help to have a check up for her." Then, he said to the girl in black, "Weiner, there is no outsider here. Let Dr. Qin have a look of your condition." Qi Weiner nodded in silence. She began to unroll her shirt lightly and took off her long skirt, only wearing her underwear. With her skin bare, these people in the room all looked surprised. The skin of the girls of this age should be as white as jade, but Qi Weiner's skin was as black as ink, which was darker than black people and gave them a very gloomy feeling. Finally, Qi Weiner took off the veil on her face. Everyone was surprised to find that besides the pale gold skin between her eyebrows, the skin on her face was as black as her body. At this time, there was a stupefied silence in her eyes. She was neither shy nor surprised by everyone's reaction. Naylan Jie asked in surprise, "What the hell is this?" Shi Kuai sighed and said, "My niece is also a miserable person. When she was a child, she was as smart and lovely as other children. However, when she was 10 years old, she suddenly got a strange disease. In the beginning, she just had a small black spot on her chest. Everyone thought it was a mole, and nobody cared about it. That little black spot grew bigger and bigger with age and gradually spread throughout her body. In the age of 18, except her face, other skin of her body had become the current black color." Naylan Wushuang asked, "Haven't she ever been to a hospital?" "Yes, we have gone to the hospital." Shi Kuai said, "To tell the truth, my brother-in-law's family is also a big family in the capital. They are very rich in human relations and financial resources. These years, they have seen famous doctors all over the world, but there's nothing could be done about it. The conclusions given by the major hospitals were very consistent, saying that this was congenital, not a disease. But as time goes by, the disease has become more and more serious, it has begun to spread to her face and finally become what it is now." Speaking of this, Shi Kuai sighed again with a sad face and said, "She is also pitiful. She was originally lively and cheerful. Now, her personality has changed greatly, and she has kept living with a computer in her room all day and rarely goes out. My sister is very worried about the poor girl and let her come to me to ease up. I just happened to hear from the elder leading cadre that the little magic doctor's medical skills were excellent, so I brought her together, hoping the little magic doctor could help her." Qin Haodong understood that Shi Kuai was also testing him through his medical skills. If he could not cure Shi Kuai's waist injury, Qi Weiner would not seek medical treatment from him. After all, the treatment of this strange disease was 10 times more difficult than Shi Kuai's waist injury. "Little magic doctor, is there any hope for curing this disease?" Shi Kuai asked eagerly. "Let me have a look." Qin Haodong asked Qi Weiner to sit down in a chair and began to take her pulse. As his fingers just touched Qi Weiner's wrist, Qin Haodong felt a cold and overwhelming qi rushing to him. Fortunately, his heart was strong, and he resisted the cold qi. But then Qin Haodong's look changed greatly. The beat of Qi Weiner's pulse was very weak. If not for his powerful spirit, he even could not feel it. Her pulse was almost like a dead man's. Soon he took his hand back. Shi Kuai asked nervously, how is she, little magic doctor? A slim hope flashed within Chi Weiner's empty eyes, and she turned to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong frowned and said, she's not sick. Eh. Shi Kuaihai's face showed that he was disappointed. He thought his niece had hoped after seeing Qin Haodong's miraculous medical skills. He did not expect that the final diagnosis would be the same as that of other doctors. Chi Weiner's expression did not change, but the hope in her eyes disappeared instantly. However, Qin Haodong continued to say, she is not sick, but was cast by a spell of the ghost slave cultivating magic. What? Ghost slave cultivating magic? Not only Shi Kuaihai but also Nailan Jie and Nailan Wushuang were amazed. Chi Weiner once again looked at Qin Haodong with a cold expression. In fact, not only these people but even Qin Haodong was surprised when he got the result. The ghost slave cultivating magic used to be a common skill of the ghost sect in the cultivation world, but it was too evil and harmful to harmony and balance of the world. Later, the ghost sect was destroyed by other allied sections. This magic had disappeared even in the cultivation world, but unexpectedly, it appeared on Earth. Dr. Qin, what's the matter? Please make it clear. Shi Kuaihai asked eagerly. The ghost slave cultivating magic is a kind of evil magic. First, the ghost fetus is cultivated by extremely evil means. When the ghost fetus is mature, it would be implanted in a suitable host body. The selection of the host body is very demanding, requiring women with yin elements, and the host must be a virgin. It takes 10 years for a ghost fetus to grow mature. When it becomes mature, it will swallow up the consciousness of the host body in an instant and make it a ghost slave of the wizard who cast the magic. Hearing this, Nailan Wushuang felt uncomfortable and asked, what's the purpose of this evil magic? Qin Haodong said, of course, it is good for the performer of this magic. Once the ghost slave's cultivation succeeds, the ghost slaves are absolutely loyal to their masters, and their strength is very strong. They can reach the level of human overt power. Moreover, the growth of ghost slaves is very rapid. Generally, within 3 years, they can reach the level of men with supreme power. Imagine how powerful it would be if a cultivator has several such ghost slaves under his command. He introduced the ghost slave cultivating magic in the cultivation world. In that world, once the ghost slaves were formed, they could reach the realm of foundation. 3 years later, they could form ghost inner alchemies. If they were cultivated by other evil magic, the time could be shortened. Normally, if a human cultivator wanted to form golden inner alchemy, it would take at least decades or even hundreds of years. While for the ghost slaves, it became much simpler, so someone desperately practiced evil magic. Nailan Jie sighed with surprise. The warriors with supreme power were absolutely the supreme existences. Their status was highly respected. It would be inconceivable if someone could use such powerful warriors as his servants. Shi Kuaihai asked in horror, little magic doctor, do you mean that Weiner was cast a ghost fetus? Yes. Qin Haodong said, think about whether she had been exposed to weird cultivators 10 years ago. Shi Kuaihai said, 10 years ago. It's been too long. I'll think about it. There's no need for you to think. 10 years ago, when I was celebrating my birthday, an old Taoist priest once told my fortune for me. From that time on, a little black spot appeared on my chest. That old Taoist priest should be the one who planted ghost fetus in me. This was Chi Weiner's first speech after entering the room. Although her voice was cold, she turned to Qin Haodong and said, how much time do I have left? Only your brain, the golden spot on your eyebrows, has been not swallowed by the ghost fetus all over your body. But if I'm right, you don't have much time left. It's about 3 or 2 days. Chi Weiner said, the day after tomorrow is my 20th birthday. It should be that day. Hearing this, Shi Kuaihai was shocked, and he quickly took Qin Haodong's hands and said, little magic doctor, can you help her? You must save her please. Qin Haodong sighed. If he had his previous cultivation, he would break the magic by just raising his hand. But now his cultivation was too low that even the foundation realm had not been completed. It was really difficult to deal with this kind of ghost fetus. If Chi Weiner's ghost fetus was to be destroyed, it was necessary to resort to magic instruments such as Taoist talisman, but still, the success rate was not 100%. He said, I have a way to try, but I can't guarantee that I'll cure her. The success rate is only 50%. Well. Shi Kuai hesitated. He was Chi Weiner's uncle, not her parent. With only half of the hope, he could not make the decision for them. No problem, I would like to receive the treatment from Dr. Qin, Chi Weiner said, but I have one condition. Qin Haodong looked at her and said, what is the condition, just say it. Chi Weiner said coldly, if you can't cure me, you must kill me. I don't want to be a slave of others. Chapter 83. Taoist Master Zhang's Peach Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 83. Taoist Master Zhang's Peach Sword. Qin Haodong grinned bitterly and said, I can promise, but I can only try my best. He knew very well that if the treatment failed, ghost fetus could not be removed from Chi Weiner's body. Once a ghost slave was formed, it could achieve covert power cultivation. And now he had not completed the foundation realm, and still stayed at the level of 9th realm of overt power. It was really difficult for him to kill a master of covert power level. I believe you. Chi Weiner said. All right. But there's no way to cure you now. You go back with me. I need to make some preparations in advance. The present situation did not allow him to choose, and he could only try his best to treat her. But in order to get rid of ghost fetus, he must first depict the Taoist talisman. Well, I'll go with you. Chi Weiner said without hesitation. Seeing that she agreed, Shi Kuai had no reason to stop her. Qin Haodong said goodbye to Nailan Xia and took Chi Weiner back to his home. Chi Weiner brought nothing but a laptop with her. Qin Haodong asked, do you like computers in particular? Yes. Chi Weiner nodded and said, since I got this strange disease, I have suffered too much cold treatment in school. Later, I simply dropped out of school. My family has prepared a computer for me to study and entertain at home. One day, I came into contact with computer hacker technology, maybe that's because I looked like a hacker, and in the hacker technology, I am very talented. Speaking of this, she laughed at herself and continued, in real life, I can't do anything about my strange disease, but in the cyberspace, I am an almighty king. 3 years ago, I ranked first among all underground hackers. Any website in the world can be regarded as the backyard of my home whenever I want. Speaking of her field of expertise, she had an exciting light to her eyes. Qin Haodong was shocked slightly. He did not expect that the girl who was trapped by the disease had such achievements in the field of hackers. Then he thought that Daddy Security Company was full of talents, but it had no workers in the computer area. If Chi Weiner could be recruited to the company, it would be absolutely appropriate. But this should be talked later. The urgent matter now was to deal with her ghost fetus. It was midnight, and Qin Haodong chose a room for Chi Weiner to live in. Then he went back to rest too. After getting up the next day, Qin Haodong found that the golden color on Chi Weiner's head had been swallowed up again. The size of the spot became smaller from a coin yesterday to a dime coin. If they didn't take the time to remove the ghost fetus, the complete demonization into ghost slave would come true in 1 or 2 days. Letting Lin Momo send the little fellow to kindergarten, as the healthcare doctor, he was absent from work again today. After having breakfast, Qin Haodong left his home. He wanted to buy something like cinnabar, yellow paper, and other stuffs back and make the Taoist talisman suppress ghost fetus. Soon, he bought all the things in a grocery store, but when he looked at them, he showed a bitter smile again. With his present cultivation, most powerful Taoist talisman could not be depicted. He had no confidence in trying to suppress the ghost fetus in Chi Weiner's body by the ordinary Taoist talisman. If only we can have several powerful magic instruments, then our chance will be greatly increased. But nowadays, it is very difficult to buy magic instruments. Where can I buy them? Walking along the road, he thought about this. Suddenly, he saw an antique street in front of him. Go inside and have a look. Maybe I'm lucky enough to meet a suitable instrument. Thinking of this, Qin Haodong walked towards the antique street. As the saying went, gold appeared in troubled times and antiques in prosperous times. As now they were in peacetime. People were more and more interested in antiques. The recent TV station's newly launched treasure identifying programs had further contributed to the popularity of the antique market. Although today was not in the weekend, the antique market was still bustling. Some people came here to look around and see if they could find some valuable items which were ignored by others. Some people took the pots or cans left by their ancestors here to sell, dreaming of getting rich overnight. In fact, the rate of this kind of thing was not much higher than the probability of winning the lottery of 5 million yuan. Qin Haodong could see that 99% of the antiques on the market were fakes. Occasionally, one or two items with some spiritual qi were also expensive. It was impossible to buy a good one at a low price. But that was not what he cared about. What he was looking for was something that could be used as a magic instrument. Obviously, that was harder to find than antique. As he had already walked half of the street, nothing new presented. He did see things like compasses, dusters, peach swords, but they were all modern crafts and had no spiritual qi at all. He was walking forward when a middle-aged man, about 40 years old, came up and said, "Brother, what are you looking for? Do you need any help?" Looking at the middle-aged man, Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, "No," but the middle-aged man did not give up. He followed and said, "You may not know me, little brother. My name is Niuer. I am a famous appraiser in this antique street. I've been here for more than 10 years. I know all the treasures in the stores of this street. As long as you tell me what you want, I'll take you there immediately. And I don't want a penny. How about it? An appraiser." Qin Haodong looked at Niuer and smiled. He thought that the tricksters and cappers nowadays were keeping pace with the times. They even gave themselves such a decent title. He thought about that Niuer must be very familiar with this antique street anyway. He might as well listen to his introduction, which would be better than aimless strolling. Anyway, with more than 500 years of experience as Emperor Greenwood, it was impossible for these people to cheat him. Niuer was a capper and had always lived by cheating others out of their money. His specialty was to observe others' features. He immediately saw that Qin Haodong was interested. He quickly followed him and said, "Bother, you have to believe in my vision. As long as you follow me, you can not only buy treasures without useless effort but also avoid buying fakes." Qin Haodong said, "Well, since you're so enthusiastic, please help me." Niuer repeatedly said, of course, I am a kind man and love to help others. I haven't had a good time recently. I want to buy some old things like a peach sword to drive away evil spirits at home. Do you know which store has that? Let's make it clear beforehand that I don't want anything that comes out from the assembly line." Hearing this, Niuer immediately clapped his chest and said, "My little brother, you have found the right person. I know a good peach-wood sword in a shop. I heard that it was a valuable thing used by Master Zhang Daoling, the ancestor of Tianshi sect. The shopkeeper has a bit of trouble at home recently. He is in a bad need of money. Otherwise, he is reluctant to sell it. The peach sword used by Zhang Daoling." Qin Haodong certainly didn't believe it, but he didn't have a goal anyway. It didn't matter if he followed him. Then Niuer led the way and took Qin Haodong to a store in the antique street. The spirit of Qin Haodong was so powerful that he immediately noticed that there were 2 or 3 people in the crowd following him. It seemed that these cappers were really professional and cooperated with each other tacitly. Soon, Niuer took Qin Haodong to an antique store called Ju Baozhai. The store looked very big and there were all kinds of antiques in it. But Qin Haodong glanced at them and found they were all fakes without spiritual qi. The shopkeeper was a fat man who weighed more than 100 kilograms. When he saw Qin Haodong, he greeted him warmly. "What do you need, little brother? There are so many treasures in my store, and they are all good things. I have bowls used by Qin Shi Huang, teacups used by Li Shimin and even urinals used by Empress Dowager Cixi." Before Qin Haodong could speak, Niuer said, "Don't talk nonsense, Fatty Wang. This is my friend. Don't play those tricks that you used to fool laymen." "Oh. He is your friend, why don't you say it earlier? Then we're all friends." Fatty Wang showed a very cooperative expression and said, "What do you want, little brother? Since Niuer's friend is my friend, I will give you a suitable price, and guarantee you the quality." Niuer said, "My little brother wants to buy something to ward off evil spirits. What about your peach sword used by Zhang Daoling? Please take it out and show it to him." Fatty Wang immediately showed an expression of embarrassment and said, "Niuer, to tell you the truth, something urgent happened in my family the other day, so I took out the sword and wanted to sell it for money, but now it's over, and I don't want to sell it." Qin Haodong knew that he didn't need to speak at all at this time. He just needed to watch them perform quietly. As expected, Niuer said indignantly, "Fatty Wang, we should pay attention to integrity in business. You said you wanted to sell it, how can you go back on your words? And since my little brother has come, you can show it to him at least. Maybe he doesn't like your stuff at all. Well, wait a minute, I'll take it." Fatty Wang made a painful expression and turned into the inner room. He quickly took out long stuff wrapped in yellow cloth. He carefully placed his thing on the counter and opened the yellow cloth to reveal a bronze peach sword. The length of the peach sword was about 1 meter. It had a dull color and simple patterns. It looked absolutely ancient stuff. The handle of the wooden sword was engraved with the words Tianshi. Qin Haodong took the peach sword and looked at it. He admired in his bottom mind that these people did a very good job in making fake old items. He could not feel any spiritual qi on the peach sword, or he would really think it was an old unearthed item. But now he could see clearly that this thing was a high-level fake, so, he instantly lost the interest to play with them and put the peach sword back on the counter. Niuer said, "What do you think, little brother? This peach sword is absolutely a good thing used by Zhang Daoling. Its magic power is limitless. Everything will go as you wish at home." "I'm not very interested. I will consider it." Qin Haodong knew a little about the rules of the antique market. You could give up the item if you didn't like it, but you shouldn't say your true idea that it was a fake. Niuer turned to Fatty Wang and said, "You just make a suitable price. If you can, our little brother will buy it. If you can't, you can take it home and keep it." "Well. All right then," Fatty Wang said with a painful look, "to tell you the truth, this peach sword was unearthed. I bought it from other people for 30,000 yuan. If my little brother likes it, I'll not earn any cent from him, he can take it away directly for 30,000 yuan. What do you think, little brother? I can assure you that Fatty Wang's price is absolutely fair." Qin Haodong smiled and shook his head. He didn't want it even by 30 yuan, let alone 30,000 yuan. He was just about to leave when an old man in traditional Chinese garments came up and looked at the peach sword in surprise and said, "May I have a look of that?" Chapter 84. Indulging in acting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 84. Indulging in acting. Well, it's fate that brings us together, just look. Then Fatty Wang sent the peach-wood sword to the old man. "Good stuff. It's really a good sword." The old man picked up the peach sword and his face showed that he was surprised. He looked like an old bachelor who had never seen a woman in his life and suddenly saw a naked beauty. Qin Haodong admired secretly. It was true that every field had its top employees. This old man was absolutely the leader in the copper industry. Why should he do this with such good acting skills? If he had gone to be an actor, he would have taken the Little Golden Man award home long ago. Of course, the old man did not know that Qin Haodong had seen through his tricks and continued his performance. This is a good thing for the house to avoid evil. It can be seen that it is an old thing. How much? I will buy it. Fatty Wang said with embarrassment, brother, you're late. This little brother also likes this sword. It's not late since he hasn't paid yet, the old man said aggressively, come on, how much will he pay? I'll pay 1,000 yuan more. Fatty Wang looked at Qin Haodong and said, I'll bid 30,000 for this little brother. The old man said, it's only 30,000 yuan for such a good thing. It's not expensive at all. I'll pay 31,000 yuan. Niuer was unhappy and stared at Fatty Wang and said, although you are a businessman, you can't only care money. According to the rules, there should be an order. The little brother came first, you can't sell it to others. All right. Fatty Wang ground his teeth and said to the old man, well, although you offer 1,000 more, I can't sell it to you. After all, it's the little brother who first saw it. Qin Haodong didn't speak but looked at them with a smile. He was not in a hurry to go now. He wanted to see what play these people could actually act. Fatty Wang and his men were obviously veterans. They had done a lot of such things. Although Qin Haodong did not make a statement, they were not in the fluster and discouragement. The old man said, you're not right. Everything is sold on the basis of price. How about I give you another 1,000? Can you sell it to me by 32,000 yuan? After such a bustle, more and more people came to the store to see the bustle. At this time, an old Taoist priest came in. The old Taoist priest was old. He looked like a hermit and a master of Taoist with his white hair and beard. When he saw the peach sword, his eyes lit up and he walked quickly to the counter and grabbed the peach sword. Fatty Wang immediately cried out, old man, don't touch it. It's an old thing. You can't afford to damage it. The old Taoist priest, however, ignored it at all. He grasped the peach sword with excitement and tears in his eyes. Thanks to our ancestors' blessings, I finally found it. Fatty Wang cried again, you old Taoist priest, what are you doing? Are you blackmailing? This belongs to my store. The old Taoist priest put the peach sword back on the counter and said excitedly, man, I am the 80th generation heir of Tianshi sect. This is the peach sword used by our ancestor Zhang Daoling to exorcise the demons. Unfortunately, it has been lost for many years, and now I have finally found it. Just tell me how much does this sword cost? I must buy it back for my disciples to look at with reverence. The old man immediately complained and said, old Taoist priest, everything goes with rules, I came first, you can't grab it. The old Taoist priest said solemnly, but this is the treasure of our Tianshi sect. I must buy it back. Niuer immediately cried out, what are you doing? My youngest brother came first. You all are late. No, I'm going to buy this sword. I can pay more. This is the treasure of our Tianshi sect. I must buy it back, no matter how much money it costs. Both the old man and the Taoist priest showed an indefatigable look. Finally, Fatty Wang made a helpless look and said, since everyone wants to buy the sword, it must be predestined. Well, you three bidders, after all, I am a businessman. The sword belongs to the one who pays the highest price for it. Since the younger brother came first. If you bid the same price, I will sell it to the younger brother first, do you agree? I don't mind. I have to buy this today anyway. The old man took the lead. I have no objection either. If I don't bring this sword back to Tianshi sect, I am sorry for my ancestors. The Taoist priest also said in righteousness, generosity, and excitement. Seeing that these people were so devoted to their act, Qin Haodong felt that if he did not cooperate with them, he was really sorry for their enthusiasm. Then he said, "Well, I have no objection." Fatty Wang's eyes flashed with complacency, and he thought to himself, "Are you pretending to be calm? But eventually, you got into my trap." He said, "From now on, the bottom price is 30,000. Among you three, the one who pays the highest price will take it away. I'll pay 32,000 yuan. The old man was the first to shout. "I'll pay 33,000 yuan. The Taoist priest showed no weakness. 35,000 yuan. 38,000. The Taoist priest and the old man argued with each other, and the price rose higher. But Qin Haodong just looked at them quietly and never participated in the bidding. The Taoist priest and the old man were waiting for Qin Haodong to call out his price, and they would both withdraw together. Qin Haodong would have to buy the sword at that time. Unexpectedly, they performed so well, but the young man never bade, which made them unable to stop but kept raising the price. In the twinkling of an eye, the price had been increased to 50,000 yuan, but Qin Haodong still looked at them quietly, without the slightest intention to participate in the bidding, which let Fatty Wang become a little anxious, and he shot Niuer a warning glance. Niuer immediately realized and said to Qin Haodong, "Brother, it's time to bid. You didn't listen to me just now, or you would buy it for 30,000 yuan. Now you can't miss the chance, or you will regret later." "Well, I'll bid for a price as you persuaded me." Qin Haodong said happily, "I bid for 100,000. As soon as he uttered his words, all the people present were shocked. Fatty Wang's face flashed with joy that could not be concealed. It was unexpected that a big sheep was trapped by a sword today. Some experienced guests had already seen that this was a fraud. They couldn't help shaking their heads secretly. They thought that young people were so deceptive and he would lose 100,000 yuan. Niuer was also very happy. He thought it was time for the show to come to an end. He said, "I must remind you too, you'd better quickly give up if you're wise. You can't compete with the little brother." He seemed to be helping Qin Haodong. But in fact it was a sign that their group had made an appointment beforehand. As long as Niuer said so, the Taoist priest and the old man would quit. Then Fatty Wang could sell the sword to Qin Haodong whether he wanted to buy it or not. Up to now, everything was perfect, but nobody expected that the old man and the Taoist priest seemed to indulge in their acting and had no intention of quitting. The old man cried, "Don't kid yourself. This kind of good treasure must be bought home as a family heirloom. I'll pay 110,000 yuan. This is the treasure of our Tianshi sect. We can't let outsiders buy it. I'll pay 120,000 yuan. During the conversation, there was a crazy look in the face of the Taoist priest. Fatty Wang gritted his teeth secretly and thought that these two were totally fools. What if the price is too high that it frightens the customer away? Fortunately, Qin Haodong did not let him down for too long. He cried again, "I will pay 200,000 yuan. Is this young man a fool? He didn't buy it when it was just 30,000 yuan, now he even offers 200,000 yuan. Is this a fool with a low IQ?" The people in the crowd were surprised. Niuer was so happy that his mouth could not close. He rushed to squeeze his small eyes to the Taoist priest and the old man, reminding them to stop as soon as Qin Haodong had bidden. Fatty Wang also cried eagerly, "This little brother bids 200,000 yuan, so this sword will be." But before he could finish his words, the Taoist priest cried out, "I bid 300,000 yuan. This belongs to our Tianshi sect. I must take it back with me." At this moment, Fatty Wang and Niuer immediately had an impulse to rush up and beat him. They both thought 200,000 yuan was a very satisfying price, while he suddenly bade 300,000 yuan. Is he crazy? Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Since you are so sincere, then I will quit and leave it to you." After he said that, the Taoist priest and the old man's body trembled slightly, and they woke up from the mind manipulating. Qin Haodong did not erase their memories, so the two people remembered exactly what happened. Fatty Wong didn't know that. He was trembling with anger. These two fools just screwed up such a good business. Now they not only lost the chance to cheat Qin Haodong out of his money but had the question of how to act their fraud right along. The young man has announced that he will not buy it. This peach sword will be sold to the old Taoist, but how can he have so much money? But if they didn't pay for it, the whole antique market would know that they were cappers and deceiving people. Qin Haodong laughed at the old man and said, "Do you want it? If you want it, hurry up and bid the price. It's a pity for you to miss such a good treasure." The old man shook his head repeatedly, "No, I don't want it." Of course, the price had reached 300,000 yuan, how dared he continue to bid? The old Taoist priest was totally confused. He had an impulse to think that he was the real heir of Tianshi sect just now. He must buy this sword back, so he kept bidding the price. Now the impulse had passed, but where could he get 300,000 yuan? Qin Haodong laughed and said to him, "Taoist, this is the treasure of your Tianshi sect. Pay the money and take it back as soon as possible." The old Taoist priest was speechless at this time. He didn't even have 300 yuan in his pocket, let alone 300,000 yuan. Qin Haodong's face changed. "Taoist priest, you can't be teasing us all, right? Do you have money?" Some of the people who liked to watch the scene of bustle in the crowd also shouted, pay as soon as possible." The old Taoist priest said with embarrassment, "Well, I'm sorry, I came out in such a hurry that I forgot to bring my money. I'll buy it tomorrow." Then he turned around to leave the shop, but Qin Haodong pulled him back and slapped him in the face. "You damn old Taoist priest, you messed up others' business. Today I must teach you a lesson." Then, Qin Haodong slapped the Taoist priest in the face repeatedly. After a few slaps, the old Taoist's white beard and eyebrows were all slipped from his face. People could see clearly that the Taoist priest was a fake. He looked about 30 years old. Fatty Wong and Niuer were startled. They never dreamed of such a situation. When they saw their partner being beaten, they wanted to help him but could not help him. In such a short time, Qin Haodong had slapped the old Taoist in the face more than a dozen times. His movement was very fast. He stood up and turned to Fatty Wong. "This guy messed up your business by pretending to be an old Taoist priest. Would you like to beat him?" Chapter 85. It feels good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 85. It feels good. Fatty Wong was not willing to slap his own people, so, he said in a casual way, "Forget it. Being kind is good for making money. It really feels good. It's a pity if you don't slap him." Qin Haodong grabbed the collar of the fake old Taoist priest and shouted to the crowd, "Are you in a bad mood? You can come out and release pressure, it's for free. Damn cheater, beat him." 4 or 5 young people rushed out from the crowd and kicked or punched at the old Taoist priest. The old Taoist priest was beaten too much to bear, and he hurried to cry for help to Fatty Wong and Niuer, second brother, elder brother. Law, help me, I'm going to be beaten to death. Fatty Wong and Niuer were shocked. They hadn't expected that they were so easily exposed by the old Taoist priest. They shouted, "Don't talk nonsense, we don't know you. You bastards, you can't abandon me." The fake old Taoist priest crawled and turned to the old man next to him and cried, "Dad, they don't care about me, you must save me. If I die, you will have no grandson." At this time, people understood that the 4 people were a group. They together set up a trick. "Beat him, these damn cheaters. Kill them, cheaters should go to the hell." Everyone in the antique market knew a rule, which was, you couldn't go back on your word, and you could only blame yourself if you bought fake goods. Although one couldn't go back on one's word, if some people set up a scheme to cheat people out of their money, it would be hateful. So, Fatty Wong and his men immediately aroused public wrath. Among the crowd, some of them had suffered losses on cheaters, so they really hated cheaters. Some of them were just making fun of cheaters. Whatever the reason was, they rushed to Fatty Wong and Niuer and other two together, punching and kicking them happily. Qin Haodong glanced happily at the chaotic scene. It was ridiculous that these people tried to deceive him. It was totally looking for bitterness for themselves. In the confusion, he left Fatty Wong's store and continued walking along the antique street. After he left, the people here did not stop. In a short time, Niuer and his men were badly battered. Fortunately, the security of the antique street came in time to persuade these people to leave one after another, otherwise, the Fatty Wong store would be destroyed. When these people left, Fatty Wong quickly closed the store and had time to relax. Thinking about what had happened, he angrily said to the old man and the fake Taoist priest, "Did you get kicked in the head by donkeys? You were capper. How did you become dupes yourself?" Niuer shouted indignantly with a pair of swollen puffy eyes, "Look at what you have done. When that fat sheep bade 100,000 yuan, you should quit. And we would succeed. Who let you two fools mark up?" "I don't know what happened," said the fake Taoist priest with a bitter expression. "At that time, my head may have cramped. I thought this peach sword was the treasure of Tianshi sect, and I must buy it." The old man also said, "I also thought it was a big treasure, no matter how much money it costs, I had to buy it. Maybe we cheated too much and indulged in acting. Damn, you and your father are both fools. You lost the money which was sent to you, and made me beaten like their grandson." The more Fatty Wong said, the angrier he became. He raised his foot and kicked the old man and Taoist priest who had just climbed up to the ground again. Niuer grabbed the angry Fatty Wong and persuaded him, "Forget it, we have been cooperating for so many years, and we are all relatives. Forget what happened just now. No, it's intolerable. We must try to teach that toy boy a lesson." Fatty Wong said angrily. The old man got up from the ground again and said, "Yes, we have lived on this for so many years and we have not suffered losses like today. We must let the boy bleed." The fake old Taoist priest said to Niuer, "Second brother, you always have many ideas. Find a way to revenge that guy." Niuer blinked his small eyes and said, "It's easy to revenge this guy. Since he's not trapped by us, let's charge him with breaking an already broken item." Fatty Wong had calmed down at this time and thought about it and said, "It is a good way, but we can't show up now. Call the third brother. The people on this street don't know much about him, so it's most appropriate for him to do that." His idea won everyone's approval. Niuer made a phone call. Soon a flat-headed man in his 30s came to the store. He was the third brother mentioned by Fatty Wong just now. He was also a member of the swindling gang. Fatty Wong told him about what happened today and then said, "You go and teach that guy a lesson, make sure he bleeds a little, or we can't accept this." "Don't worry, brother. I'm good at that." Then, he picked up a porcelain vase and was about to leave. Niuer grabbed him and said, "Third brother, that guy is smart. The vase is too big. It may not be easy to succeed. You can change another thing." The third brother asked, "Second brother, what's the right thing you think?" Niuer said to Fatty Wong, looking for a smaller one for him. "It should be cheap but looks like a valuable item." Fatty Wong thought for a moment and said, "Well, the last time you took back a broken mirror and put it away for half a year. Nobody asked for it. Just use it." Then he took out an ancient mirror from the counter. It was the size of a palm, and there was a handle about 10 centimeters long behind it. It looked very old in bronze, but it was not made of copper. Niuer said, "Fatty, how can you get this mirror out? It may be a good thing." "Impossible, you bought it by just 50 yuan. I have marked it 100 yuan for half a year, but nobody wants it. How could it be a good thing?" Obviously, Fatty Wong was very angry with the mirror. The old man said, "Son, you saw it wrong. We've asked many experts to see this thing. They could not tell what it is. It's suitable to use it." "That's right. Every time I look at it, I'll be upset." Then, Fatty Wong put the mirror on the ground and kicked it up with his foot. The mirror broke with a crash. He picked it up and sent it to the third brother. "Take and use it. Blackmail that guy severely. Don't worry, big brother. I'm sure I'll make that guy take out a lot of money." Then he took the mirror into his arms and turned away from the antique store. Chin Haodong was still walking along the antique street. He looked at several stores continuously and could not find a decent instrument. At this time, two men came to him. The man ahead of him was a man about 50 years old. His beard apparently had not been shaved for several days, and his expression was full of sadness. Behind him was a young man in his 20s, with a censer about 20 centimeters in diameter in his arms. The two men came to an antique store in front of Chin Haodong. When they entered the store, the middle-aged man asked, "Sir, do you collect censers?" "Of course." The owner of this store was a thin old man about 60 years old. He had a mustache and small eyes which were brimming with radiating vigor. "How much will you pay for one?" the middle-aged man asked. The old man smiled. "Brother, you're a layman. This is an antique shop, not a greengrocer. The price depends on your stuff. If it's really valuable, I will pay you more than 1 million. If it's a junk, I will not take it no matter how cheap it is." The middle-aged man turned to the young man and said, "Son, let the shopkeeper see our censer." The young man responded and delivered the censer in his arms to the shopkeeper. This was an iron 3-legged censer with a diameter of about 20 centimeters. The surface of the censer was not special. The craft was rough. It looked like it had been buried underground for a long time. It was not very clean and still had some fresh soil on it. It was dark and rusty. Its appearance was bad. The shopkeeper circled around the censer and shook his head incessantly. "This is not an antique. It's worthless. You can sell it at a piece of iron at most." But Chin Haodong could see clearly that the appearance of the censer was not good, but it had a strong spiritual qi. It was absolutely a good thing. The middle-aged man cried with unwillingness, "How can it be? This is a good thing left by my grandpa. I heard that my great-grandfather once hid from Japanese and buried it under the ground. My grandfather told me again and again before he died that the censer should be passed down as an heirloom. If it wasn't for my sick wife in the hospital, I would never dig it out and sell it." The shopkeeper burst out laughing and said, "Are you here to tell me a story? You said it's your grandfather who left it, even it's your ancestors who left it, it's just a piece of iron. It's still worthless." The young man asked, "Sir, how much you can pay? My mother is really in the hospital. She needs money badly." The shopkeeper put out a finger and said, 100 yuan, I will not pay more than that." "What? 100 yuan? This is our family's treasure. I will never sell it if your bid is less than 100,000 yuan. The middle-aged man immediately opened his eyes wide and looked rather unwilling. But after he said that, even the people around him laughed. For such an iron censer, 200 or 300 yuan was already a high price. Who would pay 100,000 yuan for such a thing? The shopkeeper showed a sinister smile and said, "Whether your families are dead or sick, it's still worthless. I've been kind enough to give you 100 yuan. If you want to sell it, you can leave it, or you can go now." An expression of despair flashed across the middle-aged man's face, and he cried excitedly, "No, I must sell this thing for 100,000 yuan, or it will not be enough to cure my wife." "You are simply not in your right mind," the shopkeeper said with a sarcastic expression, "even if your whole family are dead, this thing will never sell for 100,000 yuan. If anyone wants to pay for it, I call him Dad." After he said this, some people in the crowd were not happy. If you don't want to buy it, you can just do that. They also need money to treat diseases. Why did you talk in such a sinister and vicious tone? Yes, you have no sympathy at all. Facing these criticisms, the shopkeeper did not feel guilty. On the contrary, his face looked angry. He said, I am a businessman, not a philanthropist. If you are kind, you can buy it. My words count. As long as someone can offer 100,000 yuan to buy this rotten thing, I can immediately call him dad. In his opinion, this iron censer was not even an antique. It could only be sold at a piece of iron. Only fools would pay 100,000 yuan for it. Unexpectedly, as soon as he said that, someone shouted, 100,000 yuan, I will buy it. Chapter 86. Xuanda Censor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 86. Xuanda Censor. The onlookers were blaming the store owner because they held sympathy for the father and the son, and no one expected that someone would really pay 100,000 for the iron censer. They turned to look at the speaker, only to see a young man in his 20s striding towards the middle-aged man and his son. Do you really want to buy it, young man? Are you making fool of me? The middle-aged man asked with disbelief. The store hesitated for a second and said sarcastically, You're such an idiot. Of course, he's making fun of you. Nobody would pay 100,000 for your stuff. Qin Haodong ignored the man whose sympathy had been eaten up by money. He said to the middle-aged man directly, Of course it's true. But I have no cash with me now. You can give me an account and I'll transfer the money now. Everyone widened their eyes. They were so surprised that the young man was playing for real. The father and his son were bewildered for a moment. Then the son, who had the censer in his arms, took out a bank card and said, Young brother, this is my card, and you can have the censer as long as you transfer 100,000 to me. Qin Haodong didn't hesitate at all. He took over the card. Then he called someone and transferred the 100,000 Shikuai gave him. A short hesitation later, he transferred all the 80,000 he had left into the account. Judging by its thick spiritual qi, the censer was definitely a treasure, and it was a nice bargain even if he had paid 180,000 for it. After he transferred the money, the phone in the young man's hand rang twice, indicating that the money had reached the account. The young man was startled when he checked the phone. He told Qin Haodong at once, Young man, you've made a mistake. We charged you 100,000, but you've transferred 180,000. Qin Haodong said, That's right. It's worth 180,000, and that's all I had now, or I'll pay you more. No, we only need 100,000. The middle-aged man turned over and said to his son, Hurry up and return the extra money. Qin Haodong stopped him at once. It's fine. Just take it and buy some tonic for the patient. Well. The father and the son were moved into tears when they saw that Qin Haodong was serious. Then you, young man. You're such a nice guy. Thank you so much. Qin Haodong said, You're welcome. I paid for your goods. You don't owe me anything. You can find my telephone number in the transferring record, and please come to me if you need help in the future. The two bowed deeply to him in spite of what he had said, then they left without the censer. The shop owner was watching with his mouth sneering. Just keep playing, you two. I've been digging in the antique industry for more than 40 years, and now you're trying to make a show in front of me. You've made the wrong choice. Qin Haodong did not speak. He felt unnecessary to talk to a man like that. He had used up all the money in his pocket, and the only thing he wanted was to take the censer and go. He didn't care about it, but other people did. Someone in the crowd yelled immediately, Old man, did you just say that you'll call the one dad whoever paid 100,000 for the censer? Now the young man paid 100,000, what are you waiting for? Lots of people had long been unsatisfied with the store owner who was rich but mean. They followed up yelling. Say it. Call him dad. The shop owner glared and said, "What are you yelling for? Can't you see that the three were here together to make the show, fooling you around? 100,000 for the censor." I'm afraid he didn't pay a penny. Chin Haodong had just met a few cappers and now he was called a fraud. That made him very upset. He looked at the shop owner and said, "That's a big treasure. It's a steal though I've paid 180,000 for it. You were blind to have ignored it." The shop owner laughed loudly into tears. He said, "Me, Zhang Wankue had been in the antique business with my grandfather since I was 8. I entered the field when I was 20 and opened my own store when I was 30. I've never run into anything that could cloud my eyes. That was obviously bronze-plating iron stuff. How's that a treasure? Young man, you're so unqualified to fool me around." Chin Haodong was not in the mood to talk to him, so he said, "It's fine. It's your own business that you are blind. I don't want an old son like you anyway." He was leaving with the censor in his arms, however. Zhang Wankue was unhappy. He said with a cold face, "Wait a moment. What else?" Chin Haodong looked at him and asked. "You and the other two people were obviously together, making the show in front of my store," Zhang Wankue said. "In that way, why don't you and I make a bet to make all this clear to the audiences?" Chin Haodong immediately became interested when he heard the bet because nobody could win a bet with Emperor Greenwood. "Tell me, what are we betting for? You said I was blind, didn't you? I'll admit you win as long as you can prove the censor was valuable. I would fulfill the promise I made just now, calling you Dad here, and let you pick up whichever good stuff you want in my store. On the contrary, if you lose, you will be paid 10,000 yuan for mental compensation." Chin Haodong felt repulsive because the old man was mean in the first place, and now he was being so aggressive. He said, "I'm in. But you've just lost all your credibility, so we'll need someone as our witness." "Little brother, I can be the witness." As soon as Chin Haodong finished speaking, two middle-aged men squeezed themselves out of the crowd. Chin Haodong knew the first one. He was Qian Duo who he had just met days ago. "Brother Chin, I didn't expect we'll meet again so soon," Qian Duo said as he introduced the middle-aged man behind him to Chin Haodong. "This is the director of the Jiangnan Antique Appraisal Center, an expert of antique appraisal, Mr. Guofeng." Then he turned back and said to Guofeng, "This is whom I've mentioned, the miraculous man I met days ago, Chin Haodong." Chin Haodong didn't know Guofeng before, but people in the crowd had already recognized him. "So surprised that Mr. Guo is here. He is an expert in antique appraisal. Of course, Mr. Guo is the most authoritative man in the field of antique appraisal of Jiangnan. He's been on TV all the time." It seemed that Guofeng had gained strong recognition among these people. Zhang Wankue had been in the antique world for many years, and he was also clear about Guofeng's position in the field. He was one of the most respected authorities. He walked over with a flattering smile and asked Guofeng warmly, "Director Guo, what brings you here?" Guofeng nodded to him and said, "I was taking a walk with my friend, and I ran into your bet with the young man. I can be your witness. What do you think?" "I'm totally fine with it if Director Guo wants to be our witness," Zhang Wankue said with his flattering face. Guofeng was well respected in the antique field. He could have an antique shop shut down through one word, and no one would cooperate with the owner anymore. So nobody could afford to piss him off. Chin Haodong nodded and said, "I'm okay with it." Guofeng said, "Since both of you agreed, then the agreement is settled. Now brother Chin, please tell us why is the censor a treasure?" He was an expert in the antique field, and he had seen the censor through on his first glance. His conclusion was the same as Zhang Wankue's that the censor was an ordinary bronze-plating iron one. It was even not qualified to be called an antique. Chin Haodong smiled slightly and said to Zhang Wankue, "You got a hammer here?" "Yes." Zhang Wankue had no idea what Chin Haodong was going to do, but he still went back into the store and brought out a hammer. Qian Duo asked, "Brother Qin, what are you doing?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "I'm taking a chance to see if there's any treasure in the sensor." Will this work?" Qian Duo asked in surprise. He had also checked the sensor just now. It was an ordinary iron sensor with nothing special. "I'm just trying, and it's okay even if I lose." Qin Haodong said it casually, but inside, he was sure of the answer. He took over the hammer and began to tap on the iron sensor based on his strong intuition. His tap sounded gentle, but he had attached invisible strength on each. As he tapped and tapped, the iron sensor started cracking. The onlookers were confused and doubted whether the young man had lost his mind because he smashed the stuff he had just paid 180,000 for. They doubted he was going to sell the thing as waste. Zhang Wankuei sneered, "I've lived for 60 years and this is my first time to see someone trying to find the treasure in this way. This is so eye-opening." Qin Haodong ignored his sarcastic. He sped up the hammer in his hand. After he tapped all over the sensor, he dropped the hammer and patted on one side of the sensor. The sensor clattered and fell into pieces on the ground. It was surprising that after the iron pieces fell down, a milky white thing was revealed. It was another sensor. Paraffin. This is paraffin. Lots of people had recognized it and started exclaiming. Guo Feng's expression changed. He yelled immediately, "It's another sensor, that's the way the ancient people hid treasures. Brother Qin, you're really in luck today." Other people went restless as soon as they heard what Director Guo had said. "The young guy is so lucky, it looks like he had really run into some serious treasures. The young man really has sharp eyes. Even I didn't expect that the iron sensor had something else inside. It's all over. Now Zhang Wankuei will be so screwed, let's see how he will call the young man dad later." Zhang Wankuei's face changed greatly. It was already too late to regret. He could only keep watching and hope that there's nothing else in the paraffin, which was obviously impossible. After breaking the iron shell, Qin Haodong started to pat on the outside of the paraffin, trying to separate the paraffin from the things wrapped inside. The only thing he knew was that the spiritual qi given out by the stuff in his hand was getting thicker and thicker, but he was not sure what it was. Judging by the shape, it might be another sensor. The onlookers were also staring at Qin Haodong, nervously, looking forward to seeing the treasure inside in the paraffin. Soon, Qin Haodong finished patting. He shook it in a smart way. The paraffin shell on the outside cracked and broke. A bronze sensor was revealed. The reddish sensor looked ancient and elegant, with gentle patina. There were delicate pictures on the outside. It's flawless of rust, shining attractively. All the onlookers were fascinated with the sensor. Guo Feng looked like he had lost his soul. He reached out to feel the outside of the sensor, and mumbled, "Xuanda sensor. It's a Xuanda sensor." "What?" "Xuanda sensor, the legend Xuanda sensor. Gosh, the young man really has hunted a treasure today." "Really? How much is it worth? I regret it so much. Why I didn't buy it just now. That's a priceless treasure." "Stop it. Who do you think you are?" Zhang Wankuei is the one regretting the most now. He had missed such a big treasure at the door of his own shop, and he's going to call him dad later. Chapter 87. A Guardian Instrument. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 87. A Guardian Instrument. Qin Haodong was the calmest one among all. He looked at Zhang Wankuei. The old man's mouth was half opened, and his eyes turned dull. He looked like a fool. It had taken quite a while before Zhang Wankuei woke up. He raised his hand and slapped himself twice on his face. He had been digging in the antique industry for half of his life, and he surely knew how valuable the Xuanda sensor was. It was the treasure he could only dream of. Someone sent it at the door of his shop today, asking for only 100,000, but he refused it without hesitation. He almost wanted to kill himself at the moment. He wanted to grab the shiny Schwanda censer and held it in his arms, taking it as his own possession. Looking at these enthusiastic onlookers around him, Qin Haodong went towards Qian Duo and whispered with a little embarrassment, "Bro, what's Schwanda censer?" He did have more than 500 years of experience, and he had seen all kinds of treasures, but those were treasures of the cultivation world. He knew little about the cultural heritage on Earth, and he knew much less about Schwanda censer. "Let me tell you." Guofeng stood up after he heard Qin Haodong. Then he said, "The Emperor Schwanda of the Ming dynasty asked his royal craftsmen to design and build a batch of censers based on the famous China simples from Chai Kiln, Ru Kiln, Official Kiln, Gu Kiln, Jun Kiln, Ding Kiln hidden in the palace. To ensure the quality of the censers, the craftsmen chose tens of precious metals such as gold and silver and forged them with red copper more than 10 times. The finished products looked shiny and translucent. They were craft treasures. There was a long period in history when all bronze censers were called Schwanda censer. However, there were only 3,000 censers in total that had been forged during the third year of Schwanda period. No censer has produced ever since. All of them were hidden in the Forbidden Palace. Most people have heard about their stories while few had seen them in person. Now hundreds of years have passed, censers forged during the third year of Schwanda period are rarely seen. He became sentimental as he talked, "I've seen numerous antiques in my whole life, but never have I seen a real Schwanda censer. I feel so lucky today to see it, and I have nothing to regret even if I die now." "Director Gua, how much is the Schwanda censer worth?" Someone was asking the question, and Qin Haodong wanted to know it, too. Guofeng continued, "Schwanda censers are priceless. I could only give you the price as a reference. Last year, in an auction in Hong Kong, a Schwanda censer was sold in 25 million, gosh, 25 million. That's enough for ordinary people to live for more than their whole life. Trade 25 million with 180,000. The young man can never be luckier. I've been burning incense and worshipping Buddha every day at home, why am I not as lucky as him?" The onlookers were discussing. Another people asked, "Director Gua, is there any chance that the censer is a fake?" "That's possible." All the onlookers' expression changed as he said that. He continued, "Antiquaries have never stopped imitating Schwanda censer from Schwanda in the Ming dynasty to the Republic of China, in order to make exorbitant profits. After they stopped forging Schwanda censer, some of the officials in charge even summoned the old crafts and tried to imitate according to the design drawings and technical procedures of the real Schwanda censers. Those fake ones were almost on a par with the real ones, and even experts failed to tell the difference. There are many Schwanda censers exhibited in big museums in the country, but none of them had been recognized as a real one by the experts. The identification of Schwanda censer has been one of the toughest cases in the domestic archaeological community." Then someone asked, "Director Gua, is this one real or fake?" Guofeng looked at the censer and said, "I think it's a real one, but that's not important. It's so delicate that even if it's not from the royal batch in the third year of Schwanda, it must be one of those imitated by the officials in the Ming dynasty. It's so perfect." He turned to Qin Haodong and said, "Brother Qin, I love this censer so much. I can pay you 30 million if you're willing to sell." After that, he looked at Qin Haodong nervously. 30 million was generous enough, but the other party would never sell it if he was an antique fan. As time passed by, the price of it would rise a lot. 30 million, my gosh. That's 5 million more than the one sold in Hong Kong. I envy him so much. I'll go and smash a few iron censers later, and see if there's any Schwanda censer hidden inside. It's okay. You can take it if you like. It's no use if I keep it." Schwanda censer was surely very expensive, but Qin Haodong had seen too many priceless and exotic treasures in the cultivation world in the old days. A censer without any other use couldn't arouse his interest. It was better to sell it and earn money. "Brother Qin. Thank you so much. Give me your account and I'll pay you now. Guofeng was overjoyed to get the priceless treasure. He acted like Qin Haodong would go back on his words. He took out his phone and transferred the money immediately. Zhang Wankue's expression looked more than ugly when he saw Qin Haodong had earned 30 million in such a brief moment. 30 million. That was more than what he had earned throughout his entire life. The opportunity was sent to him at first, but he had given it to someone else. Seeing that the Xuanda censor be claimed, a man in the crowd yelled, "Geezer Zhang. The young man has found the treasure. Why not fulfill your promise? Are you going to break your promise?" "Dad. You're my real dad," said Zhang Wankue, who had totally changed. He rushed to Qin Haodong with a flattering face and asked, "Young daddy, how can you tell that there was treasure in the iron censer? Can you teach me that? I can call you dad every day if you can do that. I'll raise you when you're old and bury you." Qin Haodong felt embarrassed. The old man changed too quickly. "Bury me? How many years do you have? Are you cursing me to die young?" After thinking about it, he felt it normal because a moral businessman like him can call other people dad, grandpa, or even forefather as long as it was profitable because they had been used to it and would do it without any hesitation. He was disinclined to talk to that kind of people. So he said, "You just said that I can take one thing I want in your shop if I won the bet, right?" "Yes. Yes. I'm a man of my words. Just pick up whatever you like," Zhang Wankue said, with a forced smile all over his face. He agreed on it very quickly. On one hand, the witness was Director Guofeng of Antique Appraisal Center, whom he couldn't afford to offend. On the other hand, he had nothing valuable in the store. He did have a few fancy goods, but they were all well hidden, and he was sure nobody could find them out. Qin Haodong ignored Zhang Wankue and stepped into the antique store. He checked around and found all the goods fake. There wasn't anything valuable in there. With his strong intuition, he found spiritual qi was given out behind the wall, but the qi was faint. He thought it was some aged antique which he didn't care about at all. What to take? Qin Haodong turned around and suddenly found spiritual qi overflowing in a corner of the wall. The concentration of the spiritual qi was a match of that of the Xuanda censer. He strode over and found a wooden box in the corner, in which there were all kinds of broken bottles. Parts of the bottles had missed. He traced the source of the spiritual qi and found an egg-sized piece of iron. It's the source of the spiritual qi. That's good stuff. Qin Haodong grabbed the iron piece in his hand and looked overjoyed. He looked 10 times happier than he was just now when he found the Xuanda censer. Others might have no idea what it was, but he recognized it at a glance. It was a guardian instrument, which equaled a second life for its owner. Thus, it was priceless. He sensed it with his spirit and found at the level of the instrument was satisfying. It could counter 3 strikes from cultivators in Golden Core Realm and was a nice treasure for him to protect himself now. He found himself wise to visit the antique row today. He had sold a Xuanda censer worth 30 million, and now he found a nice instrument to protect himself. The only pity was that he hadn't found a proper magic instrument. Zhang Wankue was following Qin Haodong, seeing him pick up a black iron piece out of his waist box. He was totally confused and wondered if that was something nice, too. He had surely checked the stuff, and it was by no means an antique. He wondered what Qin Haodong would use it for. "This is what I want." Qin Haodong flashed the piece of iron before Zhang Wankue and put it back in his pocket, and then he strode out of the store. When he walked out of the door, he said goodbye to Qian Duo and Guofeng, then he left here and kept looking for magic instruments. He searched 10 more stores and still failed to find what he wanted. At the moment, he heard a scream coming from behind. The scream sounded so shrill that lots of people craned over there. Qin Haodong looked back, too, but he saw nothing. But when he was turning back to watch, he ran into something. He turned around and found he had run into a short-hair young man. The young man fell back for a few steps, and an antique mirror fell on the ground. This short-hair man was nobody else but Lao San. He was introduced here by the fatty Wang. They had been waiting in the crowd for long because they envied Qin Haodong so much on the 30 million he had just earned. They swore that they had to rip some money off him. Lao San had been following Qin Haodong since he left the store. It was his fellow that was screaming. Lao San ran into Qin Haodong so that he could take the chance to blackmail him. "My mirror, my precious mirror." Lao San was a good actor. He picked up the mirror on the ground, then started wailing. Qin Haodong had already known that the guy was trying to blackmail him. He thought to himself that there were so many traps in the antique row that he had run into two groups of frauds within one trip. But instead of being angry, he stayed silent and watched Lao San's show. The people around immediately gathered and wanted to see what was going on. Lao San wailed for a while. He stood up and yelled to Qin Haodong fiercely when seeing Qin Haodong remaining silent, "Young man, you've broken my precious mirror, you have to pay for it." Qin Haodong was cooperating with him very well, and he asked, "Okay, how much do you want?" Lao San yelled, 30 million, not a penny less. The guy made Qin Haodong laugh. Qin Haodong knew that he must have seen him sell Xuanda sensor, and he knew clearly how much money Qin Haodong had now. He smiled and said, "Was it made of gold?" "But even a gold one isn't worth 30 million. Lao San held the mirror in his hand and yelled like he was reasonable. It was the mirror of Su Daji, the loved concubine of the last emperor of the ancient Shang dynasty. "I was going to sell it if you hadn't broken it." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You're so good at blackmailing. Su Daji. Why don't you say it's the mirror of the Heavenly Mother of God?" Chapter 88. An honest blackmailer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 88. An honest blackmailer. Lao San yelled, "Save that crap. You've broken my stuff. It's reasonable and legal that you should pay for it." Qin Haodong said, "I'm okay if you want me to pay for it, but how much is the stuff worth anyway? We should call an expert to evaluate it. I can't pay you 30 million just because you want it." The onlookers agreed and said, "That's right. Even antiques need to be evaluated by experts. You can't just open your mouth and ask for 30 million. I think he's just blackmailing. How could a broken mirror cost that much?" Lao San felt a little guilty when he heard the onlookers discussing. He envied Qin Haodong so much on the 30 million he had just earned, so the price slipped out of his mouth without a second thought. Now it seemed that he asked for too much. If he agreed to send the broken mirror to be evaluated, it might be worth 30 yuan, at most. His fierce manner suddenly weakened when he thought about that. He said, "I didn't mean that it had to be 30 million. How much would you like to pay? The price depends on the loss." Qin Fan reached out to the mirror and took it out of Lao San's pocket. He checked it in his hand and said, "The mirror did have fallen on the ground, but it's intact now. What do you want me to pay for?" Lao San looked at the mirror and found in surprise that the mirror which had been squashed by Fatty Wang was now good as new. There was not a single clue of damage. What's going on? He saw Fatty Wang squashed the mirror by himself, but now it became flawless. He thought it for a moment and was sure that the young man must have repaired the mirror with some special technique. He was really acting fast because he had just taken the mirror in his hand. Qin Haodong was shaking his head silent at the same time. He thought to himself the blackmailers nowadays were becoming less and less professional. They should use fragile stuff such as a vase. And even if they had to use a mirror, they should have smashed it and stepped on it, then they could use it to blackmail. Why did they use such an intact mirror to blackmail? Lao San didn't know what had happened, but he had no way back since he had already been here. He screamed with head and shoulders, "Obviously it has fallen on the ground. It looks fine, but it must have been broken inside. You have to pay me." Qin Haodong laughed out again because he found the guy really funny. he asked, broken inside. Why am I not seeing it puking blood? At the moment, two guards of the antique row came out of the crowd. The taller one of them asked, "What are you doing here?" Chin Haodong said, "Bro, I ran into a blackmailer. He wants me to pay him 30 million for a broken mirror. Isn't he crazy?" The taller one frowned and asked Lao San, "What's wrong? Is that true?" "No. It's not like that." Lao San was going to argue, but his words changed before he spoke it out. He answered, "I am a blackmailer. My fellow suffered a loss in the antique shop of Fatty Wong because of him. Fatty Wong asked me to blackmail him because he wanted more money from him." The onlookers burst into laughter as he said that. They were surprised to see such an honest blackmailer who had dumped out all of his dirty plans. Lao San shivered and woke up all of a sudden. He didn't know what had got into him just now and made him confess his innermost thoughts. Chin Haodong finally knew that he didn't run into the blackmailer by coincidence. Fatty Wong sent him here. The taller guard looked at Lao San like he was looking at a freak. He said, "In that way, you have to go to the police station with us." Lao San was so scared that he was shaking. People like him feared policemen the most. He immediately begged, "Please don't do that, bro. Just let me go this time. I was just foolish and I won't do it again." The taller one turned to Chin Haodong and said, "In that case, it all depends on him." Lao San knew how it worked, too. He said to Chin Haodong, "Bro, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time. I had a 70-year-old mother to feed and a kid who's at school." Chin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "In fact, it's negotiable." "That's great. I apologize to you, and I'll bow." After he said that, he bowed to Chin Haodong to apologize several times. Chin Haodong had heard enough words on TV shows, and he was not touched at all. He said, "Apology isn't enough for me because you scared me badly when you asked me for 30 million. I need mental compensation. Calm compensation." Lao San was surprised. He was the one trying to blackmail, and now the other party was trying to ask money from him. "Don't you agree? Then let's go to the police and see how the policemen deal with it." "Yes, I agree. I agree." Lao San repeated. It was better to pay than to go to the police station because you can earn money if you didn't have any, but if you were jailed in the police station, it wouldn't be easy to get out. "How much do you want?" asked Lao San. "How much do you have?" I have 1,000 yuan. Lao San didn't lie, but he had just reported all the money he had. He was surprised again because he was going to say 100, but the words were changed before he spoke it out. Chin Haodong frowned. Though he looked dissatisfied, he said, 1,000 yuan was not much, but I'll call it. Next time when you try to blackmail me, remember to bring more money. Well. Lao San felt like crying. He was the blackmailer, not the blackmailed. Why would he have to bring more money? But it's now all too late. He had no other choice but to take 1,000 yuan out of his pocket and hand it to Chin Haodong. Then he turned back and fled. Seeing the blackmailer ended up so miserable, the onlookers burst into laughter. Chin Haodong put the money in his pocket. He raised the mirror in his hand and yelled, "Hey! Stop running. You forgot your props. I don't need it anymore, take it as a gift." Lao San said as he disappeared in the crowd. Chin Haodong smiled. It was hot that day, so he could use the mirror as a fan. He fanned himself with the mirror and walked along the antique row. An hour later, he had gone through all the shops in the street, but he still didn't find a proper magic instrument. He knew it was all about luck, so he had no choice but to go back. In Fatty Wong's antique store, Niuer was staring at Lao San with his two small eyes widely opened. He said, "You're the blackmailer. You failed to get any penny and let him empty your pocket. Shame on you." The fake old Taoist added, Lao San, your blackmailing way is really one of a kind. You just humiliated the whole blackmailing community. Lao San said with a bitter face, I did know what happened, but what had happened today was too odd. The mirror squashed by Big Brother suddenly recovered, and it looked like no one had stepped on it. And my brain failed to control my mouth at that time. They asked me if I am a blackmailer, and I said yes. They asked how much I had in my pocket, I told them everything. My brain was thinking about one thing while my mouth was speaking otherwise. The geezer in Tang costume had been in silent for long. He said, it's odd, indeed. Remember what happened when we worked as cappers. Our mind was suddenly out of control. The fake old Taoist opened his eyes suddenly, are you saying that the young kid knows witchcraft? Lao San nodded again and again. He said, it's highly likely. Everything was too odd when I recall it now. I've been living in the field for all these years, and never had I met something so odd. Fatty Wong squinted his eyes. He considered for a moment and said, turns out that we've hit on someone really capable today. Let's not to mess up with the young man from now on. We can't afford to offend him. When he got home, Qin Haodong threw the mirror on the tea table, and walked to Qin Weiner's room. He felt a little shocked when he saw the girl. The golden part on her forehead was as big as a coin this morning when he left home, but now it had shrunk into the size of peanuts. It indicated that the ghostly fetus was invading faster and faster. She might not be able to make it through tonight. The death in Qin Weiner's eyes was getting thicker. She looked at Qin Haodong like she was looking at a stranger. She said indifferently, you're home. Yeah. Qin Haodong nodded. Is everything ready? Most of them. Qin Haodong answered, but he didn't sound he was sure. It seems that you don't have much confidence. Qi Weiner said as he took out a knife under the pillow and handed it to Qin Haodong. What is this? Qin Haodong asked. You promised that you'll kill me if you fail to treat me. I don't want to be a half-man-half-ghost monster. Qi Weiner sounded more and more indifferent, like she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. Take it easy. I'll cure you. Qin Haodong said that, but he also accepted the knife. He would have no choice but to kill Qi Weiner if he had no way to save her back. He went back to the living room after that. Then he put everything he bought the tea table, including cinnabar, yellow papers for worshipping the god, the iron peace amulet, and many more. He started to draw Taoism figures after he was done preparing. He was unable to draw high-level figures at his cultivation, and could only draw the basic ones to invoke or expel the spirits. Even so the success rate was not high, he had only succeeded in 1 or 2 out of 10. When he finished, he put up a piece of invoking figure talisman on Qi Weiner's brain. After yellow light flashed, the black qi gathered between his eyebrows quickly receded to both sides, revealing an egg-sized area. It seemed that it was working. Qin Haodong felt slightly happy, and he put up 2 more expelling figure talismans on Qi Weiner's temples. This time the yellow light was even stronger, expelling the black qi to under her neck. After the black qi was expelled, a beautiful face was revealed. Normal expression went back into her eyes. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Qi Weiner jumped into Qin Haodong's arms and cried. She had been haunted by the ghostly fetus for 10 years. She felt like being swallowed by it all the time. It was understandable how painful she was. She was so desperate when she heard that she might end up being a ghost slave, or she wouldn't have handed the knife to Qin Haodong. Now she finally saw the hope to be cured. She had every reason to be happy. Qin Haodong felt a little embarrassed feeling the pressure on his chest. He pushed Qin Weiner away and said, this is just the first step to success. I need to draw more Taoist talismans to expel the ghostly fetus out of you completely. Okay, Dr. Qin, I will help you. Qi Weiner said as she started to collect yellow papers and prepare cinnabar for Qin Haodong like his assistant by his side. Qin Haodong picked up the brush pen and was going to draw. At the same time the phone he put on the tea table rang. Chapter 89. Power of a Ghost Slave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 89. Power of a Ghost Slave. Qin Haodong glanced at the phone. It was Lin Momo's phone number. He pressed the answer button, only to hear the voice of the little fellow coming from the other side. "Papa. Guess who is this?" the little fellow asked in her sweet voice. Qin Haodong felt much better when hearing the voice of his daughter. He tried to interact with her and said, "Well, is that Snow White?" "No, I am not Snow White," the little fellow said and giggled. "Is it the beautiful and cute sheep in the cartoon?" "No, no, I am not the beautiful sheep." Qin Haodong said, "Then you must be our beautiful and cute Princess Tang Tang." "That's right. I am Tang Tang." The little fellow yelled happily, "Papa. I am off school, why aren't you here picking me up?" Qin Haodong said, "Papa had something else to finish. I promise I'll go and pick you up tomorrow, okay?" "Okay. But remember I have a singing contest this evening." "Don't worry, I remember. You can go home with your mommy and have supper, and I'll go pick you up later." It was the day of the semi-final of the little fellow's singing contest. Qin Haodong had always borne it in mind. "That's nice. Good. Bye, Papa." The little fellow hung up after she said that. "Dr. Qin, you are a great dad," said Qi Weiner standing by his side. "You're saying it like your father isn't a nice one." After Qin Haodong said that, he put the phone back on the tea table. "My dad was actually bad. He has been busy since I was old enough to remember things, and he had no time for me," Qin Weiner said, and she looked upset. It seemed that she's one more girl who needed a father's love. Qin Haodong shook his head silently, and he didn't want to go on with the depressing subject. He said, "Well, let's not talk about that. We should take our time and draw more Taoist talismans. We should expel the ghostly fetus in you as soon as we can." After he said that, he picked up the brush pen and started drawing. He had picked up the feelings and the success rate grew higher and higher. At last, he could have success in 3 out of 10. To make it more reliable, Qin Haodong had drawn more than 70 Taoist talismans without a break. Deep in the mountains there was an ancient temple, in which an old Taoist was slowly enjoying the tea in the cup at the table, and he looked transcendent. There was a shrine placed beside him, however, it seemed that the shrine was not for the Taoist ancestors, instead, there were 5 skulls placed in there. These 5 skulls were no handcrafts. They were real human skulls. They were red, green, blue, red, and yellow. On one side there was the transcendent Taoist, on the other side there were 5 creepy skulls. The picture seemed extremely odd. The old Taoist was enjoying his tea while the golden skull beside him started shaking and screaming like a ghost. The old Taoist frowned. He dropped his teacup and turned back to the golden skull. Then he said, "Who's messing up with my ghostly fetus? Must have lived for too long." Then he moved his fingers and made an incantation. He shouted loudly and a strong black chi was shot at the golden skull. The golden skull went back still and stopped shaking when it was fully covered by the black chi. The ghost screaming also disappeared. Qin Haodong had just finished drawing the Taoist talismans when he heard Qi Weiner moaned painfully. The 3 Taoist talismans went in flames and ended up in ashes flying around. The black chi which was under her neck went back again. It swallowed Qi Weiner's head fast, and soon the golden part on her forehead shrank into the size of a grain of rice. Damn! Qin Haodong had no idea why the ghostly fetus inside Qi Weiner had grown so strong all of a sudden, but he had no more time to hesitate. He grabbed the Taoist talismans on the table and put them up fast. His hands moved like a flash. In short than an eye blink, he had put up 76 Taoist talismans on Qin Weiner's whole body. They looked like new clothes she was in. After all the Taoist talismans were put up, the strong yellow light suppressed the black qi. The black qi had not been totally expelled out of her body yet, and it was struggling however, it was just a matter of time that it would be extinguished sooner or later. Qin Haodong breathed deeply. It was lucky that he had drawn so many Taoist talismans, or he would have failed to suppress the ghostly fetus. In the old Taoist's place, he saw the golden skull before he started shaking violently. It was even worse than the last time, and it looked like it was going to break. The old Taoist was surprised. It looked like there was another powerful person on the other side. You think you can break my fostered ghost just like that? Don't look down on me too much. I'll make you the first sacrifice of the ghostly fetus. After that, he took out a Taoist talisman and threw it in the air. The sheet burnt in flames and turned into a black ray, rushing into the golden skull. Then it disappeared quickly. The golden skull absorbed the black light. The black light around it grew stronger. It turned from golden to pure black. Qin Haodong had just felt relieved and was going to draw more Taoist talismans to break the ghostly fetus, however, as he grabbed the brush pen, all the Taoist talismans on Qi Weiner boomed and started burning. The flames were all black, looking quite gloomy. Without the Taoist talisman suppressing, the black qi suppressed sharply and swallowed the whole body of Qi Weiner. The last golden piece on her forehead disappeared. Kill me, now. That was Qi Weiner's last words. I've failed, after all. Qin Haodong sighed and thought to himself when seeing Qi Weiner be swallowed by the black qi. He had calculated the power of the ghostly fetus, but he ignored the manipulator behind it. Now he had only one way to go. Thinking about that, he drew back his hand and grabbed the knife behind him. Since he failed to cure her, he had no other option but to kill the ghost slave. At the moment Qin Weiner screamed once more, like a ghost's wailing. Her body suddenly grew sharply. Now she was almost 2 meters tall, which was way taller than Qin Haodong. Black hair covered her arms, and sharp claws grew out of her hands. Her body grew sharply and tore up her clothes in pieces. The clothes flew out like butterflies. Now Qi Weiner's face was twisted and couldn't be uglier. Her body was like a hard black rock. She was nude, but had no trace of femininity. From now on, she was no more Qi Weiner. She was a ghost slave. Qin Haodong had no other choice. The ghost slave was relatively weaker when it firstly formed up. There might be no chance to kill it in the future if he didn't kill him now. Bedo dem, he roared and waved the knife in his hands, stabbing into the center of the ghost slave's back. He stabbed fast and accurately into the center of the ghost slave's back before it reacted. But he didn't feel he had stabbed into the flesh. He heard a tinkling sound, as if he had stabbed something iron. The ghost slave felt the stab on his back and turned back suddenly. He grabbed the knife in Qin Haodong's hand. The knife was made of stainless steel, but it was snapped into pieces like soft noodles in the claws of the ghost. Gosh, what a tough monster. Qin Haodong had crossed paths with members of the ghost sect, but that was when he was in the tribulation realm. He could kill hundreds of low-level ghost slaves with a short breath. But this time was different. He didn't even have the power of the Foundation realm. The ghost slaves had the power which was equal to that of a Foundation realm cultivator once they were formed up. He was suppressed on the cultivation realm. The ghost slave roared after he destroyed the knife. He smashed heavily on Qin Haodong's chest. The large fist was almost the size of a volleyball, and looked extremely scary with its sharp nails. Qin Haodong punched in panic. A small and a large fist collided into each other and banged loudly. He flew out like a volleyball. Qin Haodong felt warm on his chest and he almost puked blood. Foundation realm and Qi refining realm were totally different. There was a huge gap between him and the ghost slave. The only thing he could count on was exquisite moves and fast dodging skills he remembered from his last life. After he was beaten backwards by the strike, he started to use the most powerful skills from his last life, namely the flying dragon step. His feet stepped in the air for a few times and landed on the ground steadily. But the ghost slave did not give him any chance to gasp. It jumped on him and tried to grab his head with its sharp claw. His claw would definitely be crumbled like a watermelon if he was grabbed. Qin Haodong tried the flying dragon step once again. His body turned into after-images and rushed to the back of the ghost slaves. The claw of the ghost slaves grabbed on the wall behind him. The door rumbled and collapsed into a large hole. Qin Haodong took the opportunity and smashed his both hands on the back of the ghost slave's head, but its body was so tough that instead of doing damage, the strike irritated it even more. Its claws grabbed back to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong was completely dumbfounded. His moves might be clever and his skills were smart, but the ghost slave's cultivation level was much higher than him. Its body was hard enough to resist swords and spears. He had no way to break that defense. He could run away if he were in somewhere else now, and the ghost slave wouldn't be able to do anything with him, but he couldn't do it now because Lin Momo and the little fellow were in the next door. The ghost slave was extremely ferocious when it firstly formed up. No one in the community would be able to survive if he ran away, let alone the Lin's villa nearby. He was in the 9th of Qi refining realm, but there was nothing he could do with the ghost slave, not to mention the divine mercenaries, all of whom were in the 8th realm. They would die in vain if confronted with the ghost slave. Qin Haodong swore that he wouldn't run away because of the two most important women in his life. He tried his best to fight the ghost slave. After 10 more rounds, all the furniture in the house had been torn into pieces by the ghost slave, with tens of big and small holes in the wall. They fought for quite a while, but the ghost slave couldn't grab Qin Haodong anyway. It had lost interest and jumped out of the window. Qin Haodong was afraid that he would have no way to deal with it after it jumped out of the villa, and the Lin's villa in the neighborhood would definitely be devastated. He jumped up immediately and kicked on the ghost slave's back head. The corner of the ghost slave's mouth curled and it felt the attack from behind. It seemed to be sneering. Then it turned back and punched. Qin Haodong's kick missed. In a panic, he punched the ghost slave's big fist with his own. However, his two fists were still not a match of the single one of the ghost slaves. He was hit away and flew backwards, falling on and smashing the tea table in the living room. The cinnabar and the yellow paper fell everywhere. He felt the blood vigor stirring in his chest. He could no longer hold the blood and puked it out. The puked blood splashed on the mirror, falling aside. A strange scene was happening. The blood on the mirror was absorbed immediately, without any trace left. Later, the gray and ordinary mirror changed drastically. It had grown twice bigger, with one side black and one side red. The handle below became golden. It shone brightly. Chapter 90. The Mirror of Yin Yang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 90. The Mirror of Yin Yang. Qin Haodong didn't notice the change of that mirror. He strived hard to search for the black iron sheet amulet. If he found out that thing which was equal to find out one more life, or it was possible for him to be beaten to death by the ghost slave. After a fist of the ghost slave blew Qin Haodong away, it didn't run away from windows. Instead, it returned back, as his huge body moved as quickly as the lightning and his claws grabbed hard towards the heart of Qin Haodong from his back. While feeling the crisis behind him, Qin Haodong rolled away quickly. That made the claw of the ghost slave grab nothing but a big hole on the solid wood floor where Qin Haodong just lied. However, it didn't stop but stretched another claw like lightning towards the chest of Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong rolled away again. That helped him to avoid a knockout blow. However, his body had already been bumped to the wall besides him. That made him no way to escape. Oh! My God! Qin Haodong sighed. At that time, he could not already resist any more. He himself didn't cure Qi Weiner. What's worse, he did hurt Lin Momo and the little fellow. How regretful he was. If he had known the result in advance, he would bring his Wainer to a faraway forest to cure, instead of bringing her to his home. At that time, he suddenly heard an awful scream from the ghost slave. He turned around and found that the ghost slave's sharp claw grabbed the mirror on the ground. That mirror had changed a lot. One side of the mirror was black, while the other side was red. The ghost slave just grabbed on the black side. At that time, the mirror looked like a powerful smoke exhaust ventilator which crazily drew off the black air on his body. The black air was the power source of the ghost slave. After drawing off it, it was extremely dreadful that it made a crazy roar and then directly drew its claws back. Even so, the color of that arm looked much paler than other places. It was obvious that it got substantial damages. Qin Haodong goggled that this mirror was brought back by him. At that time he didn't feel any existence of the spiritual qi, but now there was full of the spiritual qi. Obviously, it was a very powerful implement, even to the class of spiritual instrument. Although it made him wonder, he didn't have enough time to care about it and to research it. Compared with it, protecting his own life had to be placed the first. Therefore, he directly grabbed the mirror on his hands. The ghost slave obviously was afraid of this mirror that he continued to step back a few paces and didn't attack it again. Qin Haodong took that mirror into his hands and immediately was sure his own guess, a spiritual instrument. It was definitely a spiritual instrument. When he was in the cultivation world, there was not a spiritual instrument. He never thought that after his rebirth, he could get a powerful spiritual instrument which he always dreamed of. He checked it again carefully that this mirror not only was bigger than when he brought it back, but also more three ancient words, the mirror of Yin, Yang. With his 500 years of experience in the cultivation world, he immediately understood what had happened. He was sure that this spiritual instrument was sealed by a special method so that he could not feel the existence of the spiritual qi. Just now he spat a mouthful of blood on the mirror that accidentally lifted the seal of the mirror that made the mirror of Yin, Yang opened. In a twist of fate, he himself walked around the antique row, but he didn't find out the spiritual instrument here and there. Unexpectedly, someone came to send actively him a spiritual instrument. Holding the mirror of Yin, Yang in his own hands, Qin Haodong felt uplifted. In front of a spiritual instrument, this little ghost slave was not worth to be mentioned. The reason why the ghost slave could run away just now was a spontaneous response of the mirror of Yin, Yang. Although he had not controlled a spiritual instrument in the cultivation world, he had used an immortal instrument so that he knew there were no more than 3 ways of controlling it. The first one is to let the spiritual instrument to recognize an owner, the second is through incantation and the third is through the input of the genuine qi. Now it was impossible to let it recognize an owner, because of the time limitation. Due to his low cultivation, it was impossible for him to use the incantation. Therefore, he could only use the genuine qi to have a try. Thinking about it, he input all the green wood genuine qi in his body to the mirror of Yin, Yang through a hand shank. After getting the genuine qi inside, the surface of the mirror of Yin, Yang suddenly became active. He held the dark side of the mirror of Yin, Yang. Although the color was still dark without any change, it gave people a sense that no one can see through it. The ghost slave had an instinctive feeling of terror and turned its head to run away. At this moment, Qin Haodong turned the surface of the mirror over, shining it by the dark side of the mirror. When it was shined by the mirror of Yin, Yang, the ghost slave's body became stiff at once without any ability to resist. The black air on his body became rolling fog that was drawn into the mirror of Yin, Yang. It was just in 1 or 2 seconds that the mirror of Yin, Yang had drawn all the black air on the body of the ghost slave. The ugly ghost slave who used to be big and strong gradually shrank and became the image of Qi Wainer again and then fell heavily to the ground. At the same moment, in the ancient temple, the golden human skeleton on the shrine suddenly broke into pieces. Old Dao spat a mouthful of blood that it was clear that he got a heavy shock. He extracted a white jade bottle from his pocket, threw out a black pellet and put it into his mouth. After that, he looked better. Who? Who dare to break my method, I will haunt you. In the villa, the crisis was solved and Qin Haodong took away the mirror of yin yang. This spiritual instrument was good, but it took a lot of genuine qi. Just using it a little while, his genuine qi had already been consumed a half. Moreover, he could sense that because his cultivation was too low, he only could use a very small part of the functions of the mirror of yin yang, possibly without 1%. He took a look to Qi Weiner. Because when she became the ghost slave, her clothes had been broken, at that time her perfect body showed in the air without any cover. Due to the fierce fighting just now, the meeting room had already become the landfill. Qin Haodong held Qi Weiner up to his own room, put her on the bed and then covered her a bed sheet. Qi Weiner closed her eyes tightly and had already sunk into a deep coma, when her face was as white as a piece of paper without the color of blood. It seemed that this time becoming the ghost slave had consumed her a lot. Qin Haodong reached out his hand and felt the pulse on her wrist, and then his brow immediately wrinkled. Although Qi Weiner was still alive, her yang Wei was very weak. It seemed that almost all had been swallowed by a ghost. If it continued in this way, she must be going to die. If he wanted to save her, she needed being input a lot of yang qi. However, where could he find such a large number of yang qi? Suddenly, he remembered the mirror of yin yang in his hands. Now he knew the yin mirror of the mirror of yin yang could absorb yin qi and ghost qi, but he wasn't sure whether the yang mirror could help people supply yang qi. Thinking of that, he stripped the bed sheet on Qi Weiner's body and took the mirror of yin yang out again. He input the green with genuine qi and used the red yang mirror to shine the bed. Suddenly the mirror of yin yang shone out a golden light that covered up all the body of Qi Weiner. A great number of yang qi filled the empty body up instantly. It effected as he expected. Although the mirror of yin yang just shone for 1 second, the snowy white body of Qi Weiner on the bed had already had the color of blood. The body of Qin Haodong shook slightly. This time, using the yang mirror consumed him much more than last time. The genuine qi in his body had already been consumed nearly to zero. He thought a second and stored the mirror of yin yang into the storage ring. Then, he sat down on the chair beside him and hurried to restore the genuine qi that he just consumed. Qi Weiner slowly recovered her consciousness. Thinking of her past, she immediately sat up on the bed. Did I become the ghost slave? Immediately a burst of cool feelings ensued and he looked down and saw a white, jade-like and flawless body. What happened? Is this me? Qi Shower was very surprised. Over these years, her body was as dark as ink that she never thought that it could be so white. She reached out her hands to feel the lubricated skin, and her eyes shed down 2 lines of tears. It was me. It was me. How did I suddenly become like this? Did Dr. Qin cure me well? Oh, where was Dr. Qin? She hurriedly looked around and only saw Qin Haodong sitting on the chair which was directly toward the bed. When she saw Qin Haodong, Qi Shao instantly regained consciousness and made a shrill scream. She quickly grabbed the bed sheets to cover her own body up. Qin Haodong was originally closing his eyes, but after hearing the scream, he immediately opened his eyes. How are you okay? Yes, that I'm okay. Qi Shao's cheeks were red, and she had become a normal girl after she had lifted the ghost. Very well. Qin Haodong also felt that Qi Weiner at this time had completely recovered to be normal. Dr. Qin, it is you who saved me? Qi Weiner asked. Yes. Qin Haodong nodded. From today, you are a normal person, and the ghost has been removed from your body. Great, I am finally normal, I am finally the same as ordinary people. Hearing this news, she burst into tears. Over the years, she was troubled by the ghost and suffered too much pain and grievances. After crying for a while, she slowly calmed down and suddenly thought of a problem. Dr. Qin, where are my clothes? She had a lot of doubts in her heart. Why didn't she have a piece of clothes? Was it the need for her medical treatment? Or for other special purposes? Qin Haodong read her thoughts and could not help but smiling bitterly. There would be no man have any idea for her when she was in the image of the ghost slave just now. He said, actually, all the clothes on your body have been shredded as soon as you just became a ghost slave. What? I have become a ghost slave. What is going on now? Qi Weiner asked inquiringly. It's a long story, but your life should not be such short, so I save you, Qin Haodong said. I need to feel you the pulse again. It is the first time that I see such a situation where you are, so I am not sure how well you have recovered. After he finished, he stood up from the chair and felt weak that he barely stood still after shaking a few times. Dr. Qin, are you okay? Qi Qier asked with concern. At this time, she realized that Qin Haodong must give too much to her curing. No wonder that even a bed sheet was not covered for her. He really had no strength to stand up. I am okay, but I could not feel any power. Qin Haodong held the wall to come to the bed and began to feel the pulse of Qi Weiner. Good, very good. Qin Haodong retracted his right hand and said, you are blessed in this disaster. You didn't become the ghost slave, but you gained the ability to become a ghost slave. What do you mean? Qi Weiner asked strangely. You can understand it by punching the wall. Although she didn't understand what Qin Haodong meant, Qi Weiner still made a light punch on the wall according to what he said. This punch did not use her too much strength, but with a bang, the hard cement wall was directly hit with a deep hole and some breakstones flew away. Qi Weiner looked at her unscathed fist and then looked at the big hole on the wall. She asked in amazement, what? What is going on here? Qin Haodong said. After you become a ghost slave, the ghosts on your body have been cleaned up by me, but that ability has been left for you. Not only do you have the cultivation possessing by the masters of Nei Jin, but you will be faster than ordinary people in the future to develop your cultivation. It will not take a long time to reach the realm of supreme power. That is to say, I am a master now. Absolutely a master, much more powerful than me. Qin Haodong said. Great, it's very great. Dr. Qin, Big Brother Qin, thank you, you are my great benefactor. Qi Yuer was ecstatic, jumped up and hugged Qin Haodong, but forgetting that the bed sheet on her body had already slipped to the ground.